Oh, life these days. I don't think that there'll be a time where it doesn't feel chaotic. My husband is on his way home. I have an 8-year-old who's supposed to be on Zoom school, and that's definitely not happening when mommy has to work. And then my 3-year-old, of course, is just doing whatever. Who knows? Who even knows? So happy to see you guys, though. I'm going to open the chat as well in case we have anybody that joins us that can't go live but has questions. So if you've got a question, you're welcome to unmute and say hello, and I'm happy to help you. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Heather. I just have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your incredible discounts this weekend. I was like, ah, thank you,
So,
thank you, thank you.
yes, you're so welcome. I'm so glad you were able to take advantage of that.
I have two questions on the standard coaching agreement template,
Okay.
and they are um, on the top line. It says, please review and return to me as soon as possible, either via email, address below, or scan to PDF and return via email. So I'm not sure the distinction between email and scan to PDF via email.
Yeah, so some people can, there's different ways that people will attach documents. Like some people I've seen will just take a picture of it and they're able to convert it, right? The other thing is you can remove that line in total if you are using a service like DocuSign or HelloSign that handles the signatures for you, right? Because you can get into those programs, designate where they're supposed to sign, and then it's all automated. So I tried to create a multiple path. If somebody's not using HelloSign or DocuSign, right, then the really clear instruction is that they need to sign it, scan it, email it back, take a photo, email it back, somehow return it.
Okay, great.
But you can change that. You can totally change that to fit your circumstances.
And then the other question I have is in the governing law section, because I'm doing telework.
Yep.
Is it my state, their state, both states? What states go in?
Yeah, as a business, you always want the governing law to be your home state. That's pretty standard. You don't want to have to be chasing down if something were to happen. You don't want to have to be, litigating in multiple states beyond your own. So always, always, always your home state, if that's where your business is based, right? There might be a circumstance where somebody incorporates in another state and that particular state for what they're doing has more favorable law, right? So there might be some exceptions to that rule. But in general, I always recommend that people, if they are incorporated in the state where they live, that should be also where your governing law clause refers to.
Okay. And then my third question is, I also bought the physical activity waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it was designed for in-person work,
Yeah.
but I'm feeling I should send that when I'm doing virtual work as well, because especially since I'm guiding clients in physical activity,
Yeah.
but I'm not there, I feel like the risk factor is even bigger.
Yeah.
So does it work?
Totally get that. You would maybe need some modifications. I'd have to look at it and think about it for that scenario, or you could connect with an attorney licensed in your state and have that revised for that scenario. Some people will take a stab at, just modifying the language slightly if they've got something that's a little bit different. So I think it's a good idea to have a waiver. Like you said, there might be a risk depending on how somebody perceives certain information and they don't follow it in exactly the right way or whatever. So I think you're wise to be thinking about that, and you might need a little additional assistance getting it tailored to your specific use.
Okay, so that's something that I can just email you separately and arrange for you to go over with.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Totally.
Great. Thank you. I'm gonna hop off. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Good to see you again.
Bye.
Oh, Emma, do you have a question?
I do. Finally, I can get this. I have another call going on Mondays, so I can jump on.
Monday's a busy day. I've noticed.
If I'm going to be co-hosting a summit with someone, and I know, the rule is if if you're hosting it, you get all the opt-ins for everyone. So if we're co-hosting, would both of us get all the opt-ins?
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit. So I'd want to understand logistics, how it's being set up. Whose business is hosting the main landing page? Is there one that's set up specifically for the summit? Because what I want to understand is when somebody comes to the page to sign up, do they think they're signing up to hear from Emma McKay's business, or do they think they're signing up to hear from somebody else's business?
Well, it's going to be a number of different speakers for the summit. So,
understood, but is like, I want to understand, because when somebody hits a landing page, there's going to be a domain associated with it, right? Where is it being hosted? Who owns the online space where it's being hosted? Because that belongs to somebody. Either a business registered that or an individual registered ownership of that.
Yeah, I think I'll probably build the landing page.
Okay. So if it's your landing page, you've got the website protection package, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you recall, your privacy policy says if you go review your privacy policy, there's going to be a provision in that policy that talks about who we share this information with, right? So go look for that section, and it's going to list, joint venture partners, affiliates, it's going to have a whole bunch of people listed. Okay. Your co-host is probably going to be covered under that list because you guys it's like a joint venture project. So what that means is that you need to track really carefully who opts in through that landing page. And if you share that information, right, you're doing it under that provision that already allows you to do that. But otherwise, most of the time, I do not recommend that people ever just hand over their list, right? Hand over the subscribes.
Because I've seen recently a couple of summits or giveaways or something that there's two people photographed. I wondered,
Yeah, if you guys are both listed as co-hosts, like on the landing page, like we're co-hosting this, you could even put a little disclaimer on the page that says when you opt in, both of our businesses will be receiving your information, right? You could put something really simple in plain English on the main page, and then you're also covered by the term that's in your privacy policy.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Good question. Good to see you, Emma.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. Yep. Bye-bye. So Bridget and Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi. I'm a CPA.
Okay.
I'm in Canada. I'm guessing where you're talking states. You're in the US?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I'm just getting started, and I have got privacy and terms of agreement on the web page.
Yep.
Just no list or anything yet. I'm still working on it.
That's all right.
I know I want to be on LinkedIn, Facebook. I've got a bit on there now, but nothing, like I'm not worried about anything yet. But as you would know, as a lawyer, we want to make sure that we don't create any extra liabilities because we're susceptible. So I want to know on like LinkedIn, Facebook, and if any of the others, do I just need to have one spot like near the top, like say if it's a group or I don't know how to do that so that they are subject to the same legal disclaimers and disclosures, because I want them to take it as, I mean, on Facebook, I know I could put it in the actual, for a group, it can be in the terms that they agree to, but for a business page, I'm assuming I could just have them reference back to the main page, but I want to have something that says, this doesn't create any contract between us for specific, it's just general information, and for specifics, you would need to. So, do you know what I'm asking?
Yes, I totally do. And it's a great question. And so for having disclaimers like that, I mean, on your business page, and let me just go open mine. Just going to look at it and see from a functional perspective where you might post something like that, because you can have pinned posts, right? So you could actually create a disclaimer that's an image that is a pinned post that stays near the top of the page, or certainly in the top of a group. Let me just go over and look really quick if you're wanting to keep a disclaimer really visible. Yeah, like I've got a pinned post that directs people to my group. So, and that's on my business page. You could pin a post that says, hey, I provide general, financial or accounting information. This is not specific advice tailored to any particular individual or whatever, however you want to put up your disclaimer. You can also, there's a place on the side where you're filling out the about section on a business page. It allows you to have your telephone number, your email address, your hours, and then it has a little information section, right? That's where I have my disclaimer. So the information provided on this page may contain legal information, but does not constitute legal advice, right? So let me just share my page with you in the chat, and then you can pop over and take a look
on it.
You're on my business page?
Yeah. So what about, do you know anything about LinkedIn or any of the others, like Instagram or Twitter?
For Instagram, you're going to want to, so the rule generally is if you're sharing information that requires a disclaimer, it needs to show up in close proximity to what you're posting or sharing that requires the disclaimer. You don't want people to go hunting for it. So what that means is that on Instagram, that's going to be in the language of the post. Right? So if you're sharing something on Instagram, you're going to want to save a sentence for the very end that says, this is not, tax advice or whatever. This is general financial information. However you want to do your disclaimer.
If you just say this is merely for informational purposes. No.
Yeah, you could put informational purposes only, educational purposes only, right? And just have that common thread at the end of every post. And then on LinkedIn, similarly, because when people are scrolling through LinkedIn, they are going to see something show up in their feed. They're not going to be on your page necessarily unless they click over onto your page, right? And so while you could put a disclaimer like on the banner, on your LinkedIn banner, that's probably not what you want to be using that real estate for. And I'm just going to go open LinkedIn.
Would it work the same? I could just put a thing at the bottom that says educational purposes only?
Yeah, you absolutely can do that. You can also put it in your summary, like if somebody were to click through on your page. It's not going to be a big risk for you to be making posts and sharing on LinkedIn. There's a ton of CPAs that use LinkedIn. There's a ton of attorneys that use LinkedIn. You don't necessarily have to be, posting your disclaimers all over your actual posts unless there's something that's really iffy or risky about that particular post. But I would say, wouldn't hurt to have it built into the summary of your services or whatever else. And certainly the goal with any of these platforms is to get people redirected off of social media over onto our websites. That's where it really matters that you have your core legal terms and, stuff spelled out. So I wouldn't worry too much about the use on social media. It's a good thing to think about, especially if there is a certain piece of information that you're sharing that you perceive as high risk. It doesn't hurt to have that disclaimer, but I wouldn't necessarily feel the need to be doing it everywhere, every time you share information or an article or whatever else, particularly if it's linking back to your website.
I have one other question. I don't know if you have the answer to this or not. It's I was invited to be on a couple podcasts a while ago, and then I was getting advice from somebody, and they said don't do any podcasts unless they're actually giving you an agreement where who has rights to that information, the interview, and the right for you to use it. And I mentioned that to both hosts, and both hosts were like, huh?
Yeah.
So
a lot of people are not going to, and it's one of the things I train on because I talk to a lot of people that are launching and running podcasts, and I help them get their legal terms in place. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you're going onto somebody else's platform, they are going to have rights to use that information, and they have to. It's by necessity, right? So let's talk about this podcast example. There was a gentleman who I helped protect his online website and his podcast, and some time ago. He's been podcasting for years, but we finally got legal protections in place for him. He had somebody come on his podcast and provide an interview, and went really well. The guy was super happy, raved about his current employer, loved, sent out a lot of love and appreciation about this place of employment. And then 2 or 3 months later got fired. And then he came back to my friend who was hosting the podcast and said, "You need to take that down. I've been fired. Now I hate this place, right? I don't want all this, this stuff in the out there in the world saying that I love this company." And my friend was like, it's a little too late. Once you push that podcast out on the air, first of all, it functions almost like a syndication, right? All of the places that are podcasting platforms basically pick up an RSS feed. And so even if you can pull that episode back in, it already lives out in the world on its own in a whole bunch of platforms, probably in a whole bunch of downloads on individuals' phones. You can't take that stuff back, right? So this is why, by necessity, the podcast host needs to have rights to those interviews.
And so talking more about me having rights to it as well, like to see if I could, so that I could like reference it on my page and use it like for promotion myself.
Oh yeah. Once it's out there, I mean, most podcast hosts want help promoting their podcast. So I'm sure they would love for you to be sharing those interviews. That's usually not an issue. And you could handle that in a quick question in advance. Like, hey, am I able to share? Can I have a link back onto my website where I can reference this episode and share with my audience, right? No, I don't know any podcasters who are going to say no to that request. There's
nothing as a guest that you really need then.
As a guest, no. As a host, yes. As a host, you need that interview release form so that somebody says, yes, you have the rights to publish this episode and for it to go live. And, so that way they don't have the situation like my friend had, where a month later somebody's coming back and trying to hold them accountable for an episode that's live in the world when they have really no direct control over taking it down.
So as a guest, how much right do you have to the episode, the information on it?
I mean, unless you've negotiated that beforehand, probably none.
Okay, I guess that's what she was talking about.
Yeah. So, but let's distinguish, because this is an important conversation, but you could be kind of making a mountain out of a molehill, is that you have rights to any content. So let's say you've got a 5-step system, right? And you teach it and you have some framework that you work with your clients around. Just because you go and present it over here doesn't mean that somebody else has rights to that system. You always have ownership of the underlying IP. They just have rights to produce that one episode and use that particular content, right? So it's like you're not giving up rights to your IP by going and doing an interview on somebody else's show.
Okay.
Yeah. And if they're asking you to sign something, basically it should just say we're able to produce and publish the podcast and not be liable for pushing this episode out into the world, right? It's not going to say, and we own your underlying IP or anything that you do present,
Yeah.
And if it does, you don't want to sign up for that kind of a show. But I just don't know any people who do that.
No, and honestly, I didn't know why she was pushing me to do that. I didn't understand the problem with it, but because she was making it sound like, I would have no right to reference the article or use it in my own promotion or anything because they own it, which I get they own it, but I'm on it as well. And usually they're
going to be very happy. Most people that I know that are podcast hosts, and I'm a podcast host as well, are very, very happy to have other eyeballs on their podcast, right? So they're going to be thrilled for you to share it and push it out into the world as well. So yeah, but you can handle that in a really easy conversation or a quick email swap before the episode. Like, hey, am I okay to link to this on my website and share it in my promotional stuff? And they're going to be like, yes, that's awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. All right, Troika and Bridget. Yes, Bridget. Absolutely. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah.
So, I signed up for your program, the
website
workshop.
protection package. Yep.
Yeah, JV affiliate upgrade, and that was back in September. And I don't know if I ever got a login, or if I did, I deleted all my emails at the beginning of
Oh.
November to clean up my mailbox. So
You might have deleted them. Let me get in. I'll have to go into your Infusionsoft account and get you reissue those. I'll just resend those campaigns because you would have had a series of follow-up emails that said, hey, come over here and join the Facebook group where you get access to the recording, and here's a link to all the documents and all of that. So if you didn't see those, and let me,
I put my email that I signed up. I'm looking at my receipts. So that's the
Okay.
email that I signed up with.
Got it. Okay. So let me just go here, because what I can do is I can issue a manual invite to the website protection package. So just give me a second and let me see if I can get you in here.
Okay. And then I have another question
Yeah, absolutely.
regarding an engagement letter agreement
So-
you sent me.
You're already a member. Looks like you're already in the group.
Okay. I probably did log in, but I didn't save my login. Or it's under a name that I don't recognize in my 1Password, because I have over 2,000 passwords in my 1Password.
Yeah,
and it's
there's
like,
no login required because it's through Facebook. It's inside of a Facebook group is where the recording lives.
can you
so-
just chat me then the Facebook
Yes,
link?
I'm just going to tag you right here. So I'm just going to say, hey, Bridget.
Welcome
Here
back.
it is. I know. Welcome back. Reach out with any questions. Okay, so hopefully you see that, and then I'll go do the same thing in the JV Ready Upgrade workshop as well.
Okay, good. All right,
Make sure
cool.
that you have that one too. And I'm going to tag you on the post that has the recording, but know that there's also other posts in those groups that have the slides and have additional Q&A stuff and have some links out to some additional resources. But I'm going to tag you in the main one that's the recording, okay? So here we go, Bridget. Gonna tag you again. Maybe you're not in this group because your name's not coming up, so I'm gonna invite you. I'll just double check. You're sure that you got both the JV upgrade and I'll double check on that, but I'll invite you into that group and then tag you in that post as well. I'll just do that as soon as I
think September 29th.
Okay. Perfect. And then I can reissue those emails for you so that you have got the links to the documents.
Cool.
Okay.
And then we talked about maybe working with you privately.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you were very on top of it, and you followed up with an email with a letter.
Yep.
That I'm not sure how to approach. I mean, you gave me your hourly rate and stuff, and it was an agreement that I signed, but it was dated September 10th.
Oh, okay. I wonder, did I miss that? If you returned it, I'm wondering if I just somehow missed that because I would have.
Oh, I never signed it. No, I never signed it.
got
Like I said, I've been so
Okay.
busy. It's like I get emails and I'm thinking, well, this is not a client that's paying me right now. I'm just going to hold off on reading this.
Yes, I get it. I totally get it. So do you want me to update that and then resend it?
Yeah, but I think I want to talk more about it to
Okay.
see how I can, because right now, I mean, I have access to the program. I just haven't had time to walk through the program.
I totally
And,
get it. So why don't I give you my, and I'm switching my main email over from info at Legal Website Warrior to Heather. So people are going to see, because I think that I don't think that the various email, like the massive email providers like Gmail and Yahoo, I don't think they like
info.
info or like admin, any of those emails. I don't think they like
I
them.
create a fun one like wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do they let that through? My deliverability. Okay. I've been trying to figure out if it's Infusionsoft or if it's like platforms like Gmail or Yahoo.
Well, anything that's not from that typical, because that's where spam comes in. Like I will not create an info, or I will not create help, because that's where the spam comes in. They just assume that you have it. Admin
Got it.
or employees. I think there's one for employees or HR. HR at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can email me here. If you want to get back on my calendar and chat, just email me. I would give you my link, but it's going to push you like several weeks out. So email just Heather at legalwebsitewarrior.com, and then Christina can help get us scheduled. Just say, hey, Christina, chatted with Heather today. Can you help get me on the calendar for 10 minutes? She'll find a spot.
So we get to talk for 10 minutes?
Yeah, well, it could be a little bit longer, but yeah, these types of spots are, my schedule is just so full as well. If you need to schedule a consult though, I can also provide you a link if you want to like actually dig into legal consult stuff. I can provide you a link for setting that up also.
So let's do the 10 minutes, and then it might be that we reschedule for a longer session, because I really want to nail down what I want to implement before the end of the year.
Okay, perfect.
It
Well,
doesn't have to be done, but it could be implemented, because I just
yeah,
right now I'm looking at the new year, and I'm looking at what's been my sticking point as far
totally.
as contracts and stuff.
Yep. No, we can walk you through that.
Okay, cool.
That'd be good. Awesome. Well, I'm glad to reconnect, Bridget. Thanks for hopping
Yeah, it's
on
good to
here.
see you.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, awesome. So, Troika, I see that you are on. Do you have any
Hi.
questions? Hello. How
Hi,
can I
hi, hi.
support you?
You know, I love you, and I love listening to your legal expertise and stuff.
Thank
Unfortunately,
you.
unfortunately, a lot of the times that you are on conflict with another, Zoom thing.
Totally. Well, and the good news, let me grab a link for you, Troika, because I record these and then I push them out onto my YouTube channel. So
Okay.
you can always go catch the recordings. And we've covered a lot of like just a gazillion topics on these calls. So
Yeah.
it's a really good database of topics. I'm actually going to be creating a question library out of them, chopping them up by questions so that it makes it much more searchable for people. But let me.
What Heather was talking about, I'm initiating a podcast the beginning of next year, so that's all very interesting. But I wanted to
Yeah,
congrats. I wanted to ask you this, because now there's just a few of us, and you're talking about this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know how I got into your world.
That's
And
okay. That's
and
totally okay.
and to what extent? I mean,
Mm.
you mentioned JV. I see. I'm in that. I'm on a year-long program with Michael Neely. I think he provides us some sort of legal documentation as a bonus. I don't know if that's through you or through someone
Yes, it
else.
is. So if you're in
Oh,
Michael,
okay.
if you're in Michael Neely's course, you probably have access to my interview release form, which will help cover the interviews for your podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And that could be how we connected, because I've
Okay.
done some work with Michael, and then we've cross-referred business, and I think I've mailed for him. He's probably mailed for me. Who knows?
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And Troika, just so you know, I just posted, check out my Ask Me Anything live video series here. And then I
okay.
linked to my YouTube page. So if you go to that page, that's my homepage on YouTube. And then you'll see an Ask Me Anything live series that is a really long series, because I started this in March and I've been going live every Monday since March. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff that gets covered in those videos. If you have additional questions, you might check those out.
Great.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. Well, so Troika, just take a minute and tell me about your business. What do you do?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13 years old.
Congrats.
I quit my last real job in May of 1980, and I've been,
Nice.
self-employed ever since then.
Yeah.
And I've got one foot in the corporate / entrepreneur world, and my other foot, which has been the heavier foot for the past 25 or so years, has been in the spiritual realm. I'm
Okay.
a spiritual teacher.
Awesome.
I do all kinds of workshops and webinars and stuff in that genre. And what I'm doing now is I'm creating a new identity and new programming and, new niche and all of that by combining the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people are waking up now and, are maybe not as woo-woo as the people 20 years ago, but, people are they're raising their consciousness, and they're
Yeah.
getting more connected to their heart's mission and desire and all of that. So, and a lot of my super woo-woo people, they want to create a new job for themselves, or a new, that's more in alignment with their spiritual thinking,
Yep.
not necessarily being a spiritual teacher, but how to bring their spirituality into
Yeah.
real estate or whatever.
Right. Bringing their whole self to business.
Right. So
Yep.
that's what I'm doing, and that's what the webcast is going to be about. I mean, the
Nice.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll develop programs from there, or courses,
Yeah.
dependent on where the need is and who tells me they want what. I'm kind of doing some research about what type of courses would
Yeah.
would
That's
serve them.
awesome. Congratulations. That sounds like
Yeah.
a fun pivot for you.
Yeah, it is fun.
Well, reach out if I can support you. If I regularly, and I've worked with people who've done all kinds of either rebrands or redoing their like online website or home, right? Those are all good times to protect your online content, especially if you're pushing some new content out into the world. And so, reach out if you have any questions about that. Happy to do a quick walkthrough of what it takes to protect an online business or anything else that you might need.
Yeah, at one time, because I have physical products too, and I had a skincare line that's kind of dying on the vine.
Okay.
Not because people don't want it, but because the whole laboratory situation has changed
Yeah.
from when I started creating products 20 years ago.
Got
And
it.
it's astronomically expensive to produce my products because they're very complex in ingredients. And the smaller boutique type laboratories don't want to be bothered. I've got 89 ingredients that are very expensive. And
Wow.
in order to, and the bigger ones, that'll do it, I have to produce 25,000 jars
A
at a
huge
time.
batch. Yeah.
And I can't afford that,
Yeah.
So I've kind of let that go. But back in the day, I had trademarks. I had 7 trademarks that
Congrats.
I got all myself. They've all kind of expired now. I did renew them after the first thing, but they've all expired now. And and I've had a policy page for a long, from the very beginning about how to order, what we return, what we don't return, how to return, blah, 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 blah. So I'm kind of, versed in that, but
yeah, in the information world,
there's always new stuff happening.
There is new stuff happening. The GDPR and privacy regulations are changing. Just so you know, my focus is really on what I call information entrepreneurs. So I don't really support businesses that do a lot of product heavy stuff like the, warehousing or e-commerce or any of that. It's the online, which some people still call e-commerce, but it's not products based. It's information, right? Information services and information products.
Well, and I've had because I started designing websites in 1994. So
nice.
But on my business website, my services and products and all of that, I do webinars and I do articles from time to time.
Nice.
And things.
Yeah.
But I've had my stuff ripped off so many times, and it really annoys me because it's very proprietary information that I receive.
Yeah.
And it's very valuable to the consumer as to being able to change their life.
Totally.
And and people are ripping me off. This has been going on for 20 years, and people are ripping me off and charging, changing one word here or there and charging hundreds of dollars for my information, some of which I give away for free, others of which I do pay, I do charge for.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a nightmare because, you can do a cease and desist, but a lot of people don't pay attention to that. And how do you police everything? And
we can walk through that really quick. I mean, there's a couple of things you can do. Is one, it does start with having contracts in place. I call them the gatekeepers, right? So when somebody comes to your website, you should have a pop-up, a notice that asks them to consent to your website terms and conditions and your privacy policy. Your website terms and conditions are going to have language in place around what people can and can't do with your information if they're done right. And a lot of people don't have website terms and conditions that are done right. Okay. So there's a lot of folks that, got a free template from a friend or cobbled their own together or downloaded a freebie, one online. And the reality is that a document that is basically tailored to the world at large is not tailored to your particular business. And so for me, part of the reason that I created a set of legal tools and contract templates for a very specific niche is, one, I wanted them to have tools that work. And two, a lot of these entrepreneurs and small businesses don't have the budget to go work with an attorney to create all of this, custom one-on-one. And I still wanted folks in this space to be able to have really high quality tools that basically work for their particular business right out of the box, which is why I specialize in information entrepreneurs, specifically coaches, consultants, online educators and experts, speakers, and authors. Their businesses from a legal perspective look very, very similar. Right. So back to the online website, your website terms and conditions are your general ground rules. They let people know what to expect, what is expected of them when they visit your site, because there's an exchange happening there, right? An exchange of value. They show up and consume your information, and in exchange, they're agreeing to abide by your terms and conditions. Right? So that's about the information that's generally available, covered by your website terms and conditions. And there's really 3 core documents that protect the online functions that we do through our websites, right? Which is publish information. So that's when somebody shows up and reads an article that you published, or a video tutorial that's available through your website, or any other piece of content, right? And so you're publishing information online, you're collecting information online. So we all should be building our databases. When you collect information, you need to have a privacy policy. And these days, if your website is available to people around the world, you need a GDPR compliant privacy policy. And privacy policy is all about telling people what information you collect, how you collect it, why you collect it, how you keep it safe, how they can opt out or get their information removed, right? It walks through all of their rights under the GDPR. So there's a lot that is covered in the privacy policy, but that's all client facing or customer facing. So when somebody hits your website, you're collecting information from them that's both voluntary and involuntary. And so your privacy policy has to cover all of that. So right, we've covered 2 of the functions, publishing information and collecting information. The third one is selling information, right? So either selling information services, selling information products like digital downloads, like your course that you're talking about that somebody maybe rips off. And again, you need terms of purchase, a specific document in place for anything that you sell. This is different than your general website terms and conditions. Terms of purchase are going to cover that intellectual property that is exposed inside of your course. You're going to have language that says, here's what you can do with this information. Here's what you can't do with it, right? And so you've got a contractual basis for going after them and saying, hey, when you signed up and purchased this course or this online offering or this digital download, here's what you agreed to do. And now you're online copying my stuff and, showing it to the world. And so that really helps minimize from a dispute resolution standpoint. People often have the hardest time with this when they don't have terms in place that are not tracked. You want somebody to have to check the box. I have read and agreed to the terms of purchase at or immediately before the point of checkout. So it does no good to have terms of purchase just buried in the bottom of your site or emailed to them afterwards in the email confirmation. There's a whole bunch of ways that people get this wrong. Terms of purchase have to show up at or immediately before the point of checkout. There has to be a consent mechanism, and that has to be tracked inside your system. Right? So those are the 3 core documents. And then you generally have some additional disclaimers, like Heather, who's in the financial world, right? If she were to offer an information product or education online, she needs some disclaimers that say, right, this is not personal, personal financial advice. It's general information, general financial education, whatever.
Right.
And so, and like people that live in the health world, health coaching, you need a lot of disclaimers, right? Nutrition, there's a lot of areas where you need to have specific disclaimers in place. And those, exist inside of these documents, both the website terms and conditions and your terms of purchase. And you can pull them out separately, put them in an email footer, put them on a sales page, put them on your website directly, right? So especially if you're working business to business, and talking about sales or earnings or income, anything financial related, the United States FTC, Federal Trade Commission, likes to see an earnings and income disclaimer pulled out separately with its own link on your website. So you've got website terms and conditions in a footer menu link. You've got your privacy policy in its own footer menu link, and you have an earnings and income disclaimer there as well. Your terms of purchase only show up at or immediately before the point of checkout. You don't post those in their own link down here because people get those confused. They only need to be shown those terms if they're purchasing from you. Right? So that in a nutshell is how to do your documents the right way, how to have them located the right way. They act as the gatekeeper. And then by tracking consent on your terms of purchase, you have to leave, Heather. By tracking consent, oh, you've got a question? No. Got it. Just saying hi. By tracking consent, then it makes it much easier process when you're doing any follow-up, and especially if you have to work on getting somebody to take down content, and you're like, look, I have proof that you purchased this. I have proof that you acknowledge my terms of purchase. Here's what they say. And terms of purchase also protect you. Hello, Dr. Kim. Also protect you if you have to defend against chargeback requests, right? Or friendly fraud. So there's a lot of ways that terms of purchase, when they're done right, protect your online business, and particularly any content that lives inside of a paid program or course.
So I have none of that, except that on my physical products, I do have things that they take internally. I have, medical disclaimers and blah, blah, blah. And my purchases, if someone buys something from me, that's the only time I track them. I don't have cookies. I don't have any of that stuff. So I don't gather information, which
you have Google Analytics.
Probably should find a way to do that. No, I'm kind of anti-Google. I don't use anything.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it partly depends on how much you're going to concentrate on online business. Like if you are committed to doing online business, you probably need to be collecting information. And even beyond selling, you need to be nurturing your database, right? You need to be sending valuable content. You need to be giving them ways to connect with you.
I have a newsletter, with A. Weber.
But is that only sent to people then who purchase? Like if somebody comes and hits your website, can they sign up for that?
Yes.
Okay, so you are collecting information. You do need a privacy policy.
I have a privacy policy for that, that we will not sell their information kind of thing, just the general email thing. But, there is a double opt-in subscription thing. I used to automatically add people that purchased from me to that email list, but I no longer do that because I've gotten complaints, I didn't request this, blah, 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 blah. So now I only mail to those that do the double opt-in.
Got it. Yep. No, and that's a safe practice. That's good.
But I'm about to change things. I'll be creating a new website for the niche, which is called Awaken Business Academy.
Oh, nice. Congrats. Yeah. Well, if you're welcome, reach back out if you need any help or you have any questions about what it takes to get all of that protected.
Yeah, I'm going to need to do that all different,
Absolutely.
More the 2020 style instead of 1995.
That's right. My goal is to get people out of the wild west of online business and get them actually treating their business like a business. Dr. Kim, great to see you. Yep, I think you're muted.
All your emails have been going some weird place, and so I just saw it, and I was like,
good.
they're still on. So
yes. Yeah, no, great to see you. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Hope you guys are too.
Yes, we are. We survived our little Thanksgiving break. My son was out of school all last week, so that always ends up being kind of a bit of a wild time. He's an 8-year-old with ADHD and he's just all over the place, but we had
Oh,
fun. It was a good week.
That's good. That's good. Same
Yes. Good.
here. But yeah.
Good. Well, is
Good.
there anything I can help you with or support you with today?
You know what? I don't know that I have anything today, but I will every time I go to websites. And now this is a small thing, but maybe it's not small. Every time I see when they have like for example, their copyright date is 2000 to 2019 instead of just 2019.
Yep.
I always think of you because
Yep.
where I learned that. And so I've made those changes and several of the other things from the workshop.
Oh, good work. I'm so happy. I know. And I laugh every time I still see people like updating there because I'm sure we'll see a slew of it. Like people are going to get rid of their copyright as soon as we hit 2021 and,
Exactly.
copyright 2021. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
I even did it on my contracts and everything else. So in the
Good.
footer and all that. So
Yeah. Well, congrats. That's so fun.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to reach out anytime. And Heather, do you have any additional questions?
I just have one actually about you. I just discovered you. There was a promotion thing that I got, and I found you that way. Um, and I see, it was kind of funny because the thing came up where you were going to answer any questions, and
Mm-hmm.
I told you I'm just getting started. And as an accountant, financial
Yeah.
advisor, I'm trying to figure out what people want to know, and I really like what you're doing.
Oh,
So I'm
thank
kind of
you.
wondering, how long have you been doing it, and how did you get started, and how did you get over the fear of the first time you're doing it not having anybody on the call?
Yeah, no, those are all great questions. So, couple pieces that I'll answer. One is I've been practicing law for 18 years now, but the shift to really focusing pretty exclusively on online business happened, gosh, in 2014, 2015. So I launched before I even like had a website. Like I came up with the Legal Website Warrior brand name and just launched into the world. And it was a fast start for me, meaning that I'd already been in law long enough and I knew really, really specifically who I wanted to serve. And so I just reached out to people in the industry and I had friends in the industry. So, that has only been since 2014, 2015. It's a continuation of my love of serving small businesses and entrepreneurs, and then just being able to do it in a new way. So I basically have two parallel businesses, right? I've got my traditional legal practice here, and then I have my online legal information and education business here. Separate entities, separate ways that I serve people, but generally the same audience, right? And then with COVID hit, and I've really been a proponent of helping people get their online business taken care of, like understand, like just, even what Troika and I were talking about, like, oh, I take my amazing content that I've developed for years and years online and people steal it. There are big fears around being online and what it takes to really do business the right way. And so that's my primary focus as a way to help educate people and get their online businesses protected. But I do so much more than that, right? I help them also protect all of their offline services, their one-on-one client services, their group workshops, like, everything else that they're doing in their business. And but the online part of it is kind of the hook because people get very nervous or they're uninformed, and that's okay. It's just, that's why I call it the Wild West of business, is the online world. But with COVID hitting in, obviously early this year, I transitioned very quickly. And I had already been developing a list and sharing content, not as much as I have always wanted to. I mean, I'm a mom of two little people that are just busier than busy. But I've been really, really consistent this year, and I'll just give myself a pat on the back because that has been something that has been hard in the past for me to achieve. My son with special needs, the mom journey to even like having my two children took a lot, 7 years and 7 pregnancies and tons of medical support and some near-death experiences. And so, building my business has sometimes felt like it's happened in fits and spurts, not just like this graceful line, right? But the going live part, I committed in March to start doing that because I really cared that anybody this year who was struggling, who needed to make some quick pivots in their business, who because of COVID needed to go online in a bigger way, like I just wanted to make sure that they were not staying stuck because they didn't have access to legal resources and to the information that would help them go online and feel really strong about doing that. And so that's just been a fun thing, a commitment that I made, and I've done it every Monday except for a few holidays this year. And I didn't know what to expect. So to answer your question about like, how'd you get over the fear of going live? Like, I just decided it's not about me. And I would just tell people like, this is an experiment. We'll see how many people show up. And if you have a question, I'll help you. And when we run out of questions, we'll sign off for the week. So, that's been my approach. And some weeks I've had, 6, 8, 10, 11 people that have kept me on for 90 minutes. Some weeks it's been a handful. And like today, we've been going almost for an hour. Some weeks, it's been 2 or 3 people that hop on and I'm done in 30 minutes. So
then you take these and you post them on YouTube, or you
yeah,
have
exactly. So I've got several video series on YouTube. So I've got like, if you go to my homepage there, I've got 1 minute legal
I have
tips.
it open in the back.
Yep, I've got
clicked
my
in.
Ask Me Anything Live series. So, for the weeks where there've been good content and lots of questions, I obviously record every one, but then I publish them there. So yeah.
Do you need permission from anybody to have that, or it doesn't matter? We know when we come on here.
Yeah,
Anybody
people.
can see it?
Yeah, that's right. I tend to, remind people, especially in my emails, like I record these, I publish them live. You can access past episodes here. So, for people that are on my list for any length of time, they generally, if they open the emails, they'll see it.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just do it. If you're inclined to do some online education, just try it.
Yeah, I guess with you, it seems like a natural pick. Like, okay, I know what they need to be online. With me, I'm still trying to figure out what do they want from me?
Yeah.
What would be good to offer? So,
well,
yeah.
and I think sometimes it helps, and I don't know if you've got a specialty like within the tax world or as a CPA, like who you really enjoy working with. Really helps to know who you want to be serving and exactly who they are. Like, are they folks that are professionals? Are they people that are entrepreneurs? And so they're dealing with, tax issues that entrepreneurs have to face. Like, really getting clear on who your target audience is going to help you have the right conversations from the start, right? So, and don't be afraid to niche. Like maybe like me, you do ABC and X, Y, and Z, right? There's a lot of contracts in business that I can help people with, but I branded myself as the legal website warrior for a reason. I want people who are focused on building information businesses that have a huge component in the online space, even if they're doing offline stuff as well. And that's the hook. If you don't niche, people just don't know how to find you. They don't know who you are, right? And that branding has served me really well. Like I had a very, I would say one of my most top level clients. I mean, this is a guy who literally made billions of dollars in one of the first companies that he built. And, now went on to sell that and now, still does just fine, millions and millions of dollars a year in his current companies. And I intersected with his director of digital operations at an Infusionsoft conference. And the irony was he was on my ideal client list. Like this is just how I've happened to create some of my favorite clients. But we had a conversation and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I handed him my business card and he's like, legal website warrior. And I said, yeah, I protect online business owners. And I left it at that. I didn't talk at all about anything else that I do. And he was like, oh, we need to connect with you. And 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, and this is somebody who could work with any attorney in the country. And because of my branding, even though they weren't ready right then when we first connected to get started, they called me a year later and we did the work together to protect their online businesses and create all their documentation. I just give that example as the power of branding to a niche. right? If I had just been, Joe Schmo, attorney at law, they would not have connected the dots that I'm the person to protect their online business, right? So the more specific that you get, people want to work with whoever specializes in the exact problem that they have, right? And works with exactly who they are as a client. So I only
I've heard
share that.
I've been hearing it for years. I just
Totally. Don't be
figured it out.
afraid. Don't be afraid to just choose. You can always change it. Nobody is writing that in stone, right? Don't be afraid to make a choice and just choose, because you can always change it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, ladies. So good to see all your faces today, and Troika, to have you on the call.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other final questions? Otherwise,
And you do not look old enough to have been practicing law for 18 years.
Thank you. I will take that. Let's see, we're just almost in December. I turned 44 in January.
Wow.
I know. I can't believe it, but
it's a Heather thing.
It's a Heather thing.
The Heather.
Yeah, when I was
Comes with the
28,
name.
people thought I was 14. So yeah.
I tell people it pays to carry a little extra weight, right? Makes me feel youthful.
Fill in the wrinkle.
Totally.
Actually, that is true.
It is true. I have two sisters who, while I joke about it, like, I would love to be as slender as they are. They're both very slender. And I will say, though, that when we go any place, people always think I'm the baby. I'm the youngest sister, and I'm the oldest. So I blame it on the weight. But thank you. Thank you, Troika. So any final questions? Anything else that I can help anybody with today?
Not today, thanks.
No,
Yay.
yeah. Well, good
No,
to see
you
you all. Have a lovely week and good luck in business. Come back anytime, for as long as I'm doing these. So yeah, every Monday, if you're on my list, you'll get a notification every Monday morning with the link and the password.
I do have one question.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I do, because you mentioned private sessions when you were doing a summation with somebody else. I do private sessions with people, and I allow them to download their private session so they have a copy of it.
Okay. Yep.
Do I need any kind of protection about that, or an understanding that?
Well, yes, I would say, first of all, primarily if you're doing private sessions, you need a one-on-one client services agreement, right? So if you're doing one-on-one coaching, and I will share that my sale that I did over the weekend that was 50% off, I know somebody else jumped on it, had gotten a bunch of templates, is actually still going today. And then today I also have a sale on my website protection package because of Cyber Monday. I'm happy to share that with you if you're interested. I've got a great one-on-one client services agreement, and then separately a consulting agreement for people that work with corporations. Let me just grab that link. Anyways, so you need a great one-on-one client services agreement to start with, and part of that is going to have some rules in place around what they can do with the information that you share as part of those services, right? So you're going to have, if you need to have a specific limitation in place that says, look, you may get access to the recording, but you cannot post this anywhere online. You cannot share it. You cannot, disclose it to other people. Like, you'd want some specific language in place that covers that. Okay. If that's what you're wanting to do, is to keep them from taking that route.
Because some of my sessions are more like teaching sessions rather than counseling sessions.
Totally. I get it. So you're walking them through some of your proprietary stuff.
Yeah. And I did have one person years and years ago who worked with me for, I don't know, about 7 or 8 sessions. And she pretty much wrote a book from our sessions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you don't want that. So
no,
I'm going to, that's the link to my individual template store. They were all 50% off over the weekend. I extended that through today because I knew that some people would not be on email over the weekend and they'd be waking up this morning catching up.
I did see your emails about that. Part of my confusion, or why I didn't jump on it, is, and I'm glad we had this call, because I knew I got something from you from a bonus from somewhere. Now we know it's Michael Neely.
Oh yeah, your interview release agreement.
But
Yep.
but I also did a JVIC upgrade from Collaborate. So
Oh,
I
nice.
don't know if I have stuff from you for that. I don't.
No, you wouldn't from that. I wasn't part of JVIC.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. So I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit better now after talking to you today, but I don't really know which templates I need. You know?
Yeah. Well, and so the place to start, I always tell people the place to start is start by protecting your moneymaker, right? What are the services that you're doing most consistently that are making you money? Start there. Right? So if you're doing a lot of one-on-one client services, you would start by getting that client services agreement in place. If you are primarily focusing on like selling an online course or online program, get your online platform protected. Get all your terms in place for your online business. So wherever you're spending the most time in your business and making money doing it, that's where you start from a protection standpoint, right? There may be multiple things that you need. And actually, I'll share another link with you because you can walk through this. And this will give you a list basically of contracts that you need based on what you're doing, right?
Oh, okay.
So it is my tools opt-in form. So that next link right there, whoops, you can just grab it. I know I didn't put the HTTPS.
That's all right. That's all right.
If you get into that opt-in, it'll take you to a page where it'll say, are you doing this? And if you click on it, it'll create this little drop down that will actually give you the specific legal contract that you need to protect that function of your business.
Okay.
Right. And so you can create a whole list of contracts. I'll give you a link to another free resource that I've created that is my Legal Basics Bootcamp. And you can do it over the span of several days. You can do it in, 40 minutes if you sat down and just watched all the videos back to back. Legal Basics Bootcamp. There we go. That's also free. It's a free educational resource that will talk about where to look in your business and to, put basically at the beginning of a legal roadmap in place for your business and help you understand what you need. And so that's really helpful from an educational standpoint because it'll talk about business entity and then look at your business contracts and then business insurance, right? And it'll walk you through the different categories. And then within each of those, like this tools opt-in will walk you through what are the specific contracts that you need.
Okay.
So that might help you, but also you can do it from the standpoint of what services are you offering? Where are you making money? Because when I teach on contracts, what I tell people is every exchange of value needs a contract. So in our businesses, we do a lot of things. Like if you went through JVIC, then you're probably looking to get into the joint venture world or create an affiliate program, right? Mm-hmm. You would need a joint venture agreement and an affiliate program agreement to make sure that from a legal liability standpoint, you're covering your hind end and not exposing yourself to a whole bunch of unnecessary risk, right? So you'll see in my individual template store, I've got a great JV agreement and an affiliate agreement in there. Like there's a lot of resources inside of those individual templates, and those templates are all available in bundles as well. So for people who want a lot of value and additional education, you could look at my bundles, which you can find through my website as well. And they just protect a whole bunch all at once versus an individual template here and there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Right. So that's the way that I approach it. I'll put my bundles link here also.
Yeah, definitely for the new, the new stuff, because I haven't created the website yet or anything for the new one. I want to do that well.
The website from
scratch.
Totally.
The other one, I can kind of do a little bit more on that, but that's, the way the universe is when you decide to go into another door, the saying is when one door closes, another one opens.
That's right.
Well, if you go and open the other door on your own, the other door
is still open,
but it gets shut.
Got it.
It starts trickling instead, and dwindling down. So
yeah, that's true.
Now, one other thing that you said about when someone goes onto your website to have a pop-up that makes them agree.
That's right. So let me grab that for you.
But doesn't that really turn people off? I know it does me.
It's a great question. Let's talk about that, because you're right that when those very first happened, so if you remember, it's probably been 5-6 years now that those pop-ups have existed, and they very first started on news websites. If you were to go visit like Wall Street Journal or MSNBC or CNN, and news websites conglomerate a whole bunch of content at once, right? They've got multiple writers there. They have syndication, which means they're bringing in other people's content that didn't originate on their platforms, etc. So you saw those first being used in kind of like news sites and websites that conglomerated a lot of sources of content all in one place. And people did find them annoying, right? They felt like it interfered with the user experience. But what has happened since then is, first of all, consumers on the internet have gotten more sophisticated. How many of us are now aware that we have rights when it comes to our personal information, right?
Yeah.
Where we didn't used to think about it too much. And now we know, okay, our data is being collected all over the place. We have rights to it. And I, for one, appreciate when somebody is letting me know they care enough about their business and their consumers to not only put legal protection in place, but to also notify us about it. So my perspective is that more information when it comes to your website visitors' rights is actually better, not worse. And also, we can then actively make the choice to either go visit those policies. We get that notice that says, hey, here's our cookies consent policy, here's our privacy policy, right? We can either go visit it or not, but it's not terribly inconvenient to now just click that little box or accept the terms and make it go away. Even though it bothers you, I would say that 80 to 90% of consumers understand why it's there and are not actually bothered by it. So you might find that your customers have a different experience than you do with that pop-up notice. And it's required by law, right?
So I don't mind the little strip that's at the bottom of websites.
Totally. And there's different ways you can do that.
Yeah,
You can do the little strips. That's right.
Those don't bother me. And I just click, and of course I don't read them, like most people don't read them.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, okay, it's boilerplate, blah, 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 probably.
Yes.
And I just click okay. What I object to, and I've had them recent. First of all, I have no ad and no pop-up software. So most of the time I don't see stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll go to a website from, Bing or whatever, from a search engine, and I'll go somewhere and you see their website for a nanosecond, and then this big square comes over it that you either have to give them your email address or you have to click to terms and agreements or blah, blah, blah in order to advance on their website.
That's right.
You know what I do with those? I just delete them and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because the way they do it is so invasive.
And there are different levels of functionality that you can install. So just like you talked about, there's like the banner across the bottom. Some people put it across the top. I have one that's a small square that shows up on the lower right-hand side. It doesn't cover the whole page. Truthfully, if we were all being 100% GDPR compliant, we would cover the page and we would make people consent before they're able to access information, and we'd track that, right? But I'm kind of a middle of the road person, meaning that like I want to avoid risk, but I don't want to do it wholly at the expense of the user experience. And also, I don't run a massive business. I run a small business. The likelihood that I end up on the radar of, one of the big watchdogs is pretty low, right? It could happen, but it's pretty low. And so I take the approach that, look, I think I've still achieved constructive consent with the pop-up that I've chosen, where somebody understands I've got legal terms in place and they can either consent to those or acknowledge them and make that box go away, or they can be slightly annoyed that that box stays up and covers part of the screen. Their choice, right? Let me share a link with you. This is the cookies consent. It's a link to the site that actually can help you create that free pop-up. And Kim, if you went through my website protection package workshop, you would have received all of this information as well. And it's still the cookies pop up, the cookies consent notice.
Okay, I might have the consent notice, but I haven't made it pop up on my site yet. So
Got it. So grab that and go. Yeah, it's pretty easy functionality, or you can have a website person help you with it. I'm also, Troika, I'm also providing you with a link to my free report, which follows that. And then here is access to my free Facebook live training. This is all on the GDPR if you want to understand a little bit more about the GDPR. And just the goal of this is to really help people just be more thoughtful, first of all, about the data they are collecting, and then also about where they put their notices so that, when you think of your business, you literally like the visual that I describe for people in the training that I give is like, think of it like it's a big house, right? And you've got multiple doorways, multiple entrances. Like, how are people coming into your business? At each doorway, you need to have proper notices in place that say, here's the information that we collect, right? Here's why we collect it. Here's how you can opt out or get out of our database. Like, you need people to understand what it is that you're doing with their information before they come in that door. Okay?
Yeah.
So just, grab those that I posted into the chat and copy them over, because you can take some time and go walk through those trainings or that report separately, and that might help you get started thinking about the GDPR.
Yeah. I know about the GDPR. I just never put it on my site because I do not use cookies. So I figured, well, I'm not using
It's not about cookies. Nope.
I'm not collecting information. So,
You are if you're collecting an email and a name for an opt-in. You're collecting sufficient information under the GDPR to qualify as personal information.
Okay.
Any information. Somebody could not have an opt-in form where they're not even collecting a name or an email address and just have Google Analytics. That's still enough to qualify as personal information. So you really can't be doing anything online if you're in business and you're collecting any data, even if it's a first name only and an email address. You're still covered. You still have to disclose your privacy policies, and you still have to comply with privacy regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's the Wild West of business out there.
Yep.
Well, good questions today. I'm going to wrap us up unless there are any finals.
None for me.
None for you. Awesome. Troika.
Good. Thank you, Heather. You've been so wonderful.
You're welcome. Great to see both you ladies today. Have a great week, and I'll be on next Monday.
And you're always Monday at 11?
I do. Yep. Every once in a while, I have a mastermind group that interferes with that, but most Mondays it's 11 a.m. Pacific, like clockwork.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Take good care. Yep. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.